Here.
Here we go.
Joe.
Hey, Aim. Hey, Dance. Yeah. Amy, they got me as Bobby again. Yeah.
We'll fix that.
Okay, Rich, thanks.
And I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, and then the councilman will just have to unmute themselves here in just a minute.
Okay, so hover around. First. I think you have to go to participate. Right, or click on participants. Now go to wherever Bobby is.
John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hey, Brian.
Hello, sir.
What do you got going on there? I see women all around you.
Well, you know, it's the nature of the biz.
Okay.
No, we're trying to get Bobby's. They have me down as Bob Sperato.
Well, maybe he had the same deal going. I don't know.
That should be fixed. Because you're Brian F. to everybody else now.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. It says Brian.
And there go the women that fast.
that quick.
Oof.
I don't know if I just left the beach, Raj and John, one of the most beautiful sunsets. And now you know why everybody loves this place.
Nice.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Hey, Brian, Allison says it's better on the boat.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
Can you see the agenda? It's Nancy.
Mm-hmm. I see it. Do we have Mark or Lou on yet?
I just let in about 50 people and I'm sorting through them to find out who it is. So see if I can find them and get them unmuted.
Mary Robertson.
There's Mark.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. I'm at my office, so I don't have a webcam, so I'm not gonna have any video.
All right, how you doing, Lou?
Good, good.
Good. Since the five of us are here, we'll just get started here in just a second. I have 6:29, so 6:30. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Special City Council meeting, January 28th, 2021 in the city of New Buffalo. Can I get a roll call?
Yes, council members, please remember to say the city, state, and county you're in. Council member Flanagan.
City of New Buffalo, County of Berrien, State of Michigan.
Council member O'Donnell.
State of Indiana, County of LaPorte, Michigan City.
Okay. Council member Robertson.
Here, New Buffalo, Michigan, Berrien County.
Council member Lejeski.
City of New Buffalo, Berrien County of Michigan.
Okay, and Mayor Humphrey.
I'm here in the city of New Buffalo in Berrien County.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we move on to the approval of the agenda, let me mention and clear a few things up about this meeting. One, I do apologize for the late arrival of the packet and posting of this meeting, but this meeting's main purpose is to discuss this document that is listed as first reading of amendment of ordinance 237, chapter 11, regulating the short-term rental residential dwellings. But because of the way we need to operate due to Zoom meetings and the OMA, this is the first chance that the five of us have to review this document and have a discussion about it to see what the direction and general consensus of the council is moving forward. So unfortunately, it was called a first read, but this is not a first read. We're not voting on a permanent document. I would assume that will happen in 2 weeks at our regular city council meeting after we have a discussion of what is in this document currently. And what is in this document currently is a combination of what was worked on by the previous city council between the and the planning commission back in October, and points discussed between myself, the city attorney, and city manager Phillips since late last year. So having said that, do we need to change new business, the words first reading, do we need to change that to a discussion officially? Can anyone let me know?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to change it to discussion. And then having said that, I would like to get a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the stipulation that Mayor Humphrey just stated.
Hey, excuse me, just a second. I just got unmuted. If you change it to a discussion rather than first reading, you won't be able to adopt it at the regularly scheduled February meeting.
But we can do a first read at the February meeting.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
With adoption.
There's enough stuff in here that needs discussion that we're going to need another 2 weeks to get clear on some of these points.
Okay. So you would need a third meeting to actually.
Yeah. So if we did it that way, Nick, we would go, it would be the March meeting. We would adopt it unless it's okay to adopt it in a special meeting.
Yes, it would be okay to do it in a special
So
meeting.
perhaps we'll do that depending on how the conversations go.
Okay.
So since this is the first time that the other 4 of these guys have heard any of this, we need to be fair and transparent here. And a lot of people are very upset that we were trying to shoehorn this in. That is not the case at all. This is how we must discuss public policy, okay? We have to discuss it publicly. So unfortunately, I think the words first reading threw people into a frenzy today. Because there are some things in here that I see that I'd like to discuss as well. But okay, so we have an approval, so roll call.
Okay. Can I please, can someone state who was the second, who seconded it?
Mark and Roger.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Councilmember O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lejeski?
Yes.
Councilmember Flanagan?
Yes.
Mayor Humphrey?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment. In order to maybe end run some unnecessary public comments, having said what I've already said, it is quite clear that we will need to revisit some things under the criteria for approved city property managers. I am well aware of that and some of the things that were discussed to me privately today with some residents. But if anyone would like to make a public comment, now is the time. Please raise your hand so you can be recognized by I guess it's Nancy or Rich, whoever's running that, and it's a 3-minute time limit.
It looks like first we have Dan Coffey.
Sure.
Dan, I just asked you to unmute, so you should be able to unmute yourself. And
okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, I was, of course, surprised that it was out in discussion on the next. Parking, I think, is an issue. You have a lot of places where the parking is partially on the state. Total of 10 seems much too low. Curious about who wrote this proposal and why you're having a special meeting and not letting it go to the next time. And have you consulted with the rental companies and management companies on this since you revised it? So who wrote the proposal, first of all?
Well, Dan, this isn't a Q&A session. It's an uninterrupted comment, but I'll be happy to answer your questions when you're done. Are you finished with your comments?
I'm finished. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. The ordinance was put together at this point by, began work in October under our city attorney, the planning commission and city council at the workshop they had in October. It was continued on with myself and our city manager, Rich Killips, and our city attorney. And these are points that have been discussed for quite some time. And I have had at least one meeting with a group of vacation rental owners and numerous other conversations with other individuals. And I've been working with them as much as possible that they've gotten back to me on things like some of the things that are in this ordinance. But we will discuss these in detail as we get into it. Next person up, Rich.
John N. Oops.
Assume that's John.
Things keep moving around with me, so be a little patient if I don't get you unmuted or if something happens. So, John, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Great, I'm unmuted. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, John.
Hey, how are you?
Hey,
listen, I've been involved with vacation rental community here for about 20 years and have also been a full-time resident during that time. So I have about 3 points to address. Since it's not a Q&A, I'm just going to go ahead and read them. Back in 2019, I was involved with conversations with the city council, with some of my colleagues in the vacation rental industry and some local concerned citizens when the last rental ordinance was drafted. The last council took time to meet with us and go over line by line together to discuss this in detail. This first reading, which I understand is maybe now not a reading, seems very rushed, in my opinion, and very overreaching. Can someone from the council please tell me what the exact steps will be in a timeline for before voting on this? So maybe by the end of the meeting, someone can give us the steps and the timeline when you plan on actually voting. The second point is, in the city manager's report, you point out that you've now had 2 seasons to see how the ordinance worked. And now it seems as if you're more than ready to add further requirements and restrictions. I wondered if the council could share with us any real data that points to whether you feel the ordinance did or didn't work. And if you could provide us with the data that you used to come up with that opinion that you need to further add further restrictions. Lastly, under section 11.3 item C2, you state that any owner of a short-term rental unit who owns more than one short-term rental unit, the local agent must be employed by a business with a short-term rental management permit. Unless I'm reading this incorrectly, it sounds like you're saying that if I happen to own 2 properties, I can't rent them myself. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to buy and sell rental properties in Harbor Country, often managing them myself. It sounds like you're saying that somehow the city of New Buffalo will not allow this to continue, basically saying that you know better than my 20+ years of experience in this industry. I'd like an explanation on why you feel that owning 1 or even 21 properties has anything to do with how well they are managed. I appreciate your time. If you can't address my questions tonight, I can provide an email, so you may do that in writing at a later date. Thank you.
I can address them right now, John. Number 1, we will have a discussion tonight. We will have 2 weeks in which we can discuss various points further to get to a first read on the February 15th meeting. 2 weeks at this point is plenty of time. I'm happy to meet with you guys again and discuss things line by line in that window for further clarification. I think most everything in this was discussed with you guys when we spoke, or at least alluded to. I don't remember the exact thing, depth of the conversation. As far as data, it's quite clear that we've had an abject failure of enforcement for 2 seasons here, if you've been back in our residential neighborhoods. And the data for you is the election. I would not be sitting here if it was not for the issue of short-term rentals in our residential neighborhoods and how they have not been policed or enforced. And fortunately, the problem really falls down to the owners of these properties. Now, I've always said, this is not you guys. We know that, okay? But in order to get to the point where we can return some sense of normalcy to the industry, we have to be able to manage the people who are renting illegally. And that's what the point of this ordinance is. When we say when we suggest that you cannot rent, or say you can't rent a place if you own more than 1 home, that is because plenty of people own multiple homes and are doing a terrible job. So I want them to be managed by responsible people who are professionals in your industry. That would include you. You, of course, would be an approved agent to manage this if you so choose to do so because of your personal experience in the area. And there will be a list of criteria. But what we're not going to do is let somebody who comes in and buys a bunch of properties, has a history of tickets and violations, and they're just going to decide we're going to form a group and manage their own property when they couldn't do it already to begin with. Okay? I hope that's pretty clear. And that's where the direction I would hope we'd be moving here, is to get some action and some solutions to the problems we've been having. Next comment.
Jason Milovich. You should be able to unmute yourself, Jason.
There. Hi, Jason and Erica from Bluefish Rentals. Hi, John.
Hi, Jason. Obviously, you know you're an approved vacation rental company.
I hope so. It stays that way.
So, but go ahead.
My, you know, there's a lot of this that I feel like overreaching would be the word I would use. And the biggest problem for me that I guess I would like to address is the maximum occupancy going from 14 to 10.
And that can be discussed.
Okay. I mean, we only have 14 homes in New Buffalo, and really only one, which is a 6-bedroom home that we went down from 16 down to 14 and has ample parking and everything else that I you know, that's where I look at and say, well, you know, it's really not fair that a home like that is now have to drop down again. But my other point is that, as you said, you want to manage people that are renting illegally, which I couldn't agree more. But I feel like all this that's been drafted, you know, is really pointed at the people that are doing it legally. And like now we have to pay more dues, and we have to have more rules, and the people that aren't renting legally aren't having to do any of this. So it's like, unless that's enforced more, I just don't know why we're creating more until the other is managed, the manage of the illegal rentals. But that's one man's opinion. Appreciate it. That's all I have to say.
Just real quick. So hopefully as we get into the presentation here, and I have a little presentation I'm going to do before we get into the read, hopefully some of these things will make a little bit more sense. And we do have 2 weeks to discuss them. I'm not looking to put additional hurt on you guys. I'm looking to manage the entire issue, and this helps with the enforcement procedure if we have a better set of rules that is enforceable. But we can discuss some of these points as we move into the read. Next comment.
I think Jace, next person is.
I think Jason's wife wanted to talk.
Here, go ahead. Go ahead, put them back on.
Unmute yourself.
We'll get there. We got there. Thank
So,
you.
I'm
Hi,
sorry,
John.
I thought you guys were done. Go ahead.
No, that's
Thank
okay.
you.
We kind of are both on the same computer. I'm Erica Milovich, and I have worked with New Buffalo area schools for several years as their literacy coach and fourth grade teacher. Have had wonderful opportunity to join up full-time now with Bluefish these last few years. And just really kind of getting into the field, becoming very aware of other local communities and other local ordinances all around the lake. And part of this came into play when we were working with the governor on reopening safely vacation rentals, short-term rentals. One of the things that I know I've been following is South Haven, which I know New Buffalo Township, along with Nick Curio, running as both the city attorney for South Haven and New Buffalo. We're looking at closely modeling everything from capping numbers per community, also doing completing annual home and safety inspections and addressing complaints. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware too with them that they found themselves in quite a deficit this year in 2020, running $100,000 in the red by not being able to have as many registered rentals as they thought that they would. They've been declining each year, so much so that they're now trying to move funds around to cover that $100,000 expenditure and are re-evaluating their ordinance as well. So just wanted to kind of look at that and asking, and I think you kind of answered my question, John, at the beginning, but one of mine was, what successful city or township models are currently being used to assist the city the city of New Buffalo, in its attempt at redoing the ordinance itself?
We have a very unique situation here, and we'll get into that as we get it. And I hope my comments when we get into consideration will explain it a little better. But you know, yes, we have been following the South Haven model too, as much as we can, where it helps us with our issues.
Absolutely. Good to hear.
Yeah, we have a very interesting situation here where we have a lot of people who are refusing to obey the law. They are willfully basically saying, we don't care what you say as a city, we're going to do whatever we want. I don't think you see that in a lot of other communities, or at least I'm not aware of it.
Don't do it.
So let's go to the next person, Rich.
And John, if I could just say that people are waiting to get on, but it's saying that the meeting's full. So we're getting texts from people saying they can't sign on, just to let you guys know.
Yeah, I don't, Rich, I don't know. What do we do?
Shouldn't be capped. There shouldn't, yeah. Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Sure. Next person.
Tanya Arana. Oops. You may have to unmute yourself again. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Are we there?
Yep. Tanya?
Yeah, go ahead, Tanya. Hi.
Hi, how are you? This is Henry and Tanya Arana from Apple Vacation Rentals. I was doing some math this morning. I went to the website of the city of New Buffalo and I logged the numbers of the legal registered home, which is 165. Mm-hmm. And based upon that number, I calculate the fees from the previous from the previous year, which was around $38,000. Now with the new numbers that you are putting on, it's going to be around almost $290,000. Do you have, well, to do the math for you, 165, what?
That will be explained as we get into the costs of the program to administrate this. You'll understand why it's
right. That's what my question was going to be. You know,
yeah, we're gonna walk all through that as we move on tonight.
What? Okay, thanks.
I don't think it'll quite be that high. $200,000 is around where we're at. That's what will be, and we'll adjust the fees to meet the number. We can't charge more than it costs to administrate the program. Okay, so whatever the fees are, they are to pay for the program to manage the rentals, because right now the taxpayers have been subsidizing it. Okay, because we don't make any money on the current fees. It all goes to pay for our building inspections. Anyway, if you have anything else?
Yeah, well, but if you do realistically do the math, you know, we have 165 legally registered, and we probably have around 210 illegal. You know, they're doing this.
Yeah.
And then you also probably have around 300 people that come from Chicago, and they use their home for the whole entire summer, and they bring friends every weekend and everything else. So the bottom line, I think that most of the people is looking at the rental companies has, you know, we are the ones who's creating all of this, and we're not actually. We only have 5 homes in New Buffalo.
I know it's not you guys, especially you guys specifically.
So
yeah,
those are my 2 cents.
All right,
thank you.
Next person in line.
Heather Grodowski.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Hi, Heather.
Hi. I have just several items I hope that will come up in the discussion this evening. They aren't even specific questions, but just things that I really hope get some attention as you're working through the details on the changes. So particularly in section 11-4 regarding short-term rental management professional permits, I think some of these requirements place an undue burden on property managers, like myself, and I'm a very small business in this community. Particularly item C, having to provide the names of employees or independent contractors that will perform routine cleaning or maintenance. Item D, the address of short-term rental units within the city for which an employee or an applicant has served as his designated local agent for at least a year. Item E, the list of short-term rental units outside the city that the applicant has managed. You know, I mean, we're talking about seasonal people who are independent contractors. Maintenance people are going to vary widely. This seems like a lot of arbitrary and kind of unnecessary detail. In section 11-4, item C, under the standards for review, it seems very arbitrary to require an applicant to have at least 3 employees. You know, in our town, many of us, and I include myself here, we're small businesses with a handful of independent contractors. My company is literally just me. I guess if you want to call my cleaning people employees, you can, but I don't have anybody else to put on this application. And then, you know, I'm really concerned about requiring employees to have served as a local agent or performed similar functions in another jurisdiction for at least 10 short-term rentals for at least a year. I mean, that precludes my business right off the bat from even being able to be considered. I've been doing this for 3 years. I only have 4 homes in New Buffalo. And I think it prohibits the entry of other small privately owned management companies who might do a great job from even beginning an operation. So I hope you'll consider some of that. And just a couple things before I will mute myself. It's section 11-11, item A. And these are things, you know, regarding enforcement. And I think everyone here agrees that enforcement is an issue. It's absolutely a problem. And it's a huge key to our success as a community in administering a short-term rental program. But I do think that, you know, should a property receive 3 violations in a 12-month period, and, you know, their permit becomes revoked, to put 36 months as the time frame for applying for a new permit seems really arbitrary and an undue burden on those property owners, especially if the property happens to change hands. And then the placement of a placard outside the home, frankly, in my opinion, that is dubious at best. I think it's an infringement on property rights. And frankly, I think it's totally unnecessary. This isn't the 1800s and the Scarlet Letter. And I would really hope that that would be discussed further. And then, you know, I think, John, you have really been open to us in the rental community and asking for our input. And I know that we all really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. But one thing I just really hope that the public understands, the changes to this ordinance seem very focused on requiring owners to have a management company in place. And I understand the reasoning behind that. And there's definitely things about that that make sense, but I really want to make it clear to the public that those of us in the rental management community are not trying to drive people to that or trying to create a self-serving ordinance. We just want the same thing as everyone else. We want what's best for our community. And I really want people to understand our goal is just to make this equitable and productive and effective, not to try to drive business to ourselves in some self-serving manner. And I feel it's important that comes across. So thank you for listening. And I hope these things will come into the discussion this evening.
Yeah, most certainly all those things will. I know that the criteria for the approved management company is the most controversial thing. There's definitely some room to change things around to meet the needs of our local companies. The goal is to keep people who are irresponsible from renting their own homes, who own multiple homes. We can't do anything about one, but when you own 9, 6, 5, we should be able to step in and make some, you know, adjustments to who's managing it if there's been a history of massive problems. The last bit, unfortunately, you are going to have to be identified because the people who live in this town who don't rent have a right to know what is a legal registered rental and what is not. So if it's posting a permit in the window or a sign out front or, you know, a bluefish sign in the front yard, something needs to be out there to let people know that, you know, who owns this property and if it's a legal rental or not. That is something that's going to be mandatory. I don't see any way out of that. It's not fair to the rest of the people who don't rent.
John, for the record, I think you maybe misunderstood. I totally agree with that. I think that's really important. And, you know, one of the things that will facilitate enforcement is knowing who to contact and having somebody there to respond. I'm just talking about the sign that's indicated in section 11-11, item A, number 2, which is about putting a sign in the yard that says this property is not eligible for short-term rental. In the event
as opposed violation. Well, that could go a different route. I don't know where we're going to go in there, but something that, you know, we have to, you know, I think what's clear here from this is that the group of us and whatever councilmen are interested need to have another meeting. And we will in the next 2 weeks, but let's go on with the public comment because it's going to go all night. Who's next?
Next is Dan Hatch.
Dan who?
Dan Hatch.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Humphrey. Can you guys hear
up on me?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I can't tell you how many times on Zoom I've been muted. I just have a couple concise questions about the ordinance, so I want to run through them. To the extent that we're going to talk about them, or you're going to talk about them later on in the meeting, I'm happy for that response. The first is, does the adoption or the potential adoption of this ordinance open up the application period for all short-term rentals? So if a short-term rental was not registered in the past, does the adoption of this ordinance allow everyone in the community to apply for the ordinance pursuant to the new regulations that are proposed in the ordinance? So I got about 3 more points, so I can keep going, or you can respond to that one.
Go ahead and make them all, and then I'll answer. So we're not trying to do Q&A here. I know we've been doing that, but we're not supposed to be.
Okay. Next is, when is the application date for the short-term rental open up after the adoption of this ordinance? And when is the cutoff date for the application period? I think you discussed at the very beginning when this ordinance may be adopted. It sounds like the February meeting will be the discussion or the reading, and then a potential adoption in the March meeting. And then with regards to the inspection, what are the regulations for the inspection? Is that the Michigan Occupational Code? Is that a local rental code? Or is that some type of other regulations that would then obviously set forth violations, or that the property owners can know how to comply with? And those are the questions.
All right, I'll answer those. One, there's a moratorium in place. That moratorium was voted on and will continue until the end of this summer. The adoption of this ordinance will not have any changes to the moratorium at this point. We could always vote to remove that. But the problem is that we have to be able to handle the 150 some odd illegal rentals before we start letting everybody just register for a permit, because we have to be able to figure out the cost to administrate the current rentals that we have. Now we have a number, we have to see if that number is accurate based on permit fees, okay? So I thought that answers your next couple questions. The building codes issue are through the Michigan Housing Act, as well as the stipulations in our zoning and our rules for dwellings, and you're in R1, whatever the zoning are. The building department or the Safe Builder inspectors can clear up an exact list of what you need for inspection, and that should be readily available. Next comment.
Dan Saunders.
What's that?
Dan Saunders is next. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Dan.
John, how are you?
I'm hanging in there, buddy.
Good. Hey, thanks for addressing, first off, what this actual meeting is, because it's set off quite a fury last night.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's just
and so,
just
no, I
else,
appreciate
you know
that.
what
I
else to call
appreciate that. And I appreciate the clarification. And to step back a bit is that I had a whole punch list of things that I wanted to address, but I will wait until later at that time when you guys are able to kind of fine tune this document. But one of the things I wanted to kind of comment on is that I feel like this document that you have right now, and as Heather Gradowski has said, puts a really undue burden on the property managers, not the individual property owners. And so there are a lot of restrictions and a lot of requirements that the property managers have to go through, but nothing stating that an individual homeowner. I mean, for the simple fact that you state that an individual homeowner, they may have a guest sign a lease, but property managers, there are certain rules and hurdles that they have to jump through. So, for a property manager, they need, as you said, the qualifications to be a local agent, but an individual homeowner can have their next door neighbor, their cleaning person, the guy that takes out their trash, anybody go through and become that. So he said, if it's good for one side, it should be good for the other. And I hope that goes that way. And, as the discussion goes forward, I hope, and you've been great about including us in discussions, that we can have this open forum.
Yeah, you and I, we spoke about what the criteria were for the owner. Right. So if this has gone sideways in this document, we need to correct it. So okay. we'll get there when we get into it. We have another comment?
Talia Edwards is next.
Yay, I'm up. Can you hear me okay? Hello. Yep. I wanted to speak directly in clarification of the dismantling of the short-term rental appeals board. The original ordinance had 3 members plus a city manager and the mayor as members. So that would be a total of 5. This new ordinance has just 1 hearing officer who is defined as, quote, an employee or independent contractor of the city, but in either case shall act as an impartial adjudicator, end quote. I guess my questions, which I'm hoping through further discussion we'll figure out, is how would we find that person? I really feel that having 1 person doesn't give the checks and balances. Instead of giving 1 person power, I think it needs to be more than 1 so that there's more checks and balances involved in this. And I agree with Dan that I think that this ordinance is really geared towards the rental companies and not so much as the local individual homeowners, which I am in favor of both. I just think that there needs to be more restrictions put on that local homeowner. Maybe they just have to follow a couple of the rules and regulations, and we need to put those in place, because I know in discussions that we've had in the past that majority of the problems that are happening in the city are from like actual homeowners who are renting their homes, not homes that are being rented out by the property management companies. So I'm hoping that we have further discussion in depth and how to go about making this fair for everybody.
Yeah, will be cleared up when we get to it. At first I was, obviously I was a, proponent of the short-term rental board. I appointed you to it. Now it became clear after some other discussion that the hearing officer might be a better way to go, and we will get into that when we bring it up in the document. We'll talk about it. And that is something the five of us are going to have to decide which way we want to go. Do we want to kick the board, or do we want to go with the hearing officer? So you're going to hear the pros and cons as we walk through this on where we go. But as far as what, a bunch of us have talked about, nothing has changed. The onus should be on the people who own the home to hire responsible people to manage it. I am considering all of you people that I know that are in this meeting to be those people. It's not like I'm trying to farm you work. I'm just looking for experienced people that know how to manage properties and aren't managing it from their townhouse in Schaumburg and acting like something's going to actually get done when there's, 25 kids having a keg party. Anyway, next comment. Thank you.
John, can I chime in real quick? This is Lou O'Donnell.
Please, Lou, please help me out.
Well, this is on a separate subject. I've had a few different people now text my phone saying they can't get in the meeting. I guess it's capped at 100 people. So, and they're saying other people are texting them. So my question is, I guess, is Nick here?
Yes, I'm here.
Nick, so I guess what I'm worried about, and I hate to throw this out there, but if people are unable to attend the meeting because we're capped at 100, are OMA rules and all that, is there an issue with that? That people are not allowed to attend because we have a cap of 100? Or?
Yeah, that's potentially an issue. We shouldn't have a cap on the meeting. Is that something Zoom is imposing, or something that has been a box that's been checked by someone?
I have no idea.
No, that's Zoom. It depends on how much you want to spend for your license.
Okay.
And the particular license that the city owns, since we normally have somewhere between 15 and 40 people, the city just purchased a license for 100. We've never ever had more than anywhere close to 100 people on a meeting before.
Okay. This is obviously kind of a new situation, unique in the Zoom era. But I think since we're not voting tonight, I don't think we're probably violating the Open Meetings Act. But it would be great if we could set up some way for people to at least call in. The meeting's recorded, correct? So everyone will be able to everyone will be able to watch after the fact. But I would want to probably post something to have a call-in number maybe at the end of the meeting, give people an opportunity to call in if they hadn't already. I guess this isn't totally unique because there are situations where so many people show up to a physical meeting that they can't all get in, and that does not violate the Open Meetings Act. So I think this is analogous. I would say we can go ahead and proceed, but it's obviously not an ideal situation. Do we have any idea how many people are blocked out?
I've had 3 people text me, and they said other people are trying to get in also that have contacted them. So I don't know how many, but I understand what you're saying, because we've had city hall meetings years back where we couldn't allow people in because the fire code.
Is it possible to put a call number or something on the website while we're doing this, or is it not that simple from a technical standpoint?
I think even call-in numbers in the Zoom world wouldn't work.
Okay.
The person would have to call into City Hall, and I'm not sure we have anyone that could answer the telephones for that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could proceed. Again, this is just a discussion. Are you acting on other items on the agenda? Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we probably would like to vote on the beach rake and I don't know. I'd love to see what you guys want to do. Most of the stuff is discussion tonight. the ceiling on the boat ramp, perhaps we could vote on that. But we got, how are we doing on public comment? How many more people we got?
7.
All right, I would ask if your comment is not pertinent and this is a discussion and we are not voting, perhaps contact us directly. If there's something you have to say that has not been addressed yet, perhaps wait till this meeting is over and it will be addressed. Email us tomorrow and we can get back to you, or we're going to be here for quite some time.
So anyway, finishing up that thought, I would say proceed to look into the Zoom issue in between now and the next meeting, maybe up the cap to, when the short-term rental items are going to be discussed. But since we're not voting on this ordinance tonight,
200 or something. Yeah. We got another comment. Did anyone spin it out any, or are they just?
No, we still have William Lenga is next.
All right, bring him in.
William, should be able to unmute yourself.
Good evening. I'm the owner of a short-term rental property at 21 South Barton Street. My story's simple. I bought a foreclosed property that was an absolute disgrace to this community, put in hundreds of thousands of dollars, spent tens of thousands of dollars locally furnishing it. I employed local people to do that. I employ local people to do the cleaning, maintenance, and other work around here. I pay $8,000 in property taxes, nearly $5,000 in sales taxes because of the rental units. We keep immaculate records. We get 5-star ratings from hundreds of people that have been guests. We have about 850 rental person days a year that bring revenue into this community. Never had a complaint, never had a problem. Most of the people we rent to are folks you'd want to have a beer with. So what I don't understand, and I've heard much from the rental community here, how is it that I've become an irresponsible person when I'm the only one in this ecosystem that has any money in the game? There's $500,000 to $1 million of property that I own in this county. And you think I want a problem there? So that's one thing. I think that it's just nonsense that owners don't care about their property. I don't know where that's come from, but it's nonsense. Second thing is that this ordinance is written, tries to shift the policing burden for behavior of a renter to me when I have no authority to do that. I think it is essential to have standards, that I have to be compliant with health and safety rules, that I should be regulated because I want to demonstrate I'm compliant, that I do the right thing, that I run this responsibly. But the notion that I am supposed to have policing power over illegal activity of another human being is incomprehensible to me, which is what that burden shift is. While the rental community says that they've got the burden of this agency, the only penalties accrue to the homeowner. And it's for things that are disproportionate to the problem. Your own general ordinances only allow for administrative fines of $50. This is 10 times that for the original infraction, many of which I don't have control over. So I have no objection to anything that I have control over. But if I have a human being that decides they're going to murder their wife, I can't be charged with murder just because I rented the damn property to them. When I did reasonable checks that aren't illegal because I don't like certain people or any of that other kind of stuff. So what I'd like to understand is, how is it that we became a villain when this is the way Michigan brings people to here? And virtually everybody on this meeting started by renting property in this community or in this area. That's why they're here. So, please, as you discuss this, explain to me where my safe harbor is. I do everything that's asked of me. I'm compliant in everything on the property condition, on the rental requirements, on the registration requirements. But I've got some person that decides to be in a illegal way, drunk and disorderly, violating noise ordinances, or other personal offenses that I cannot control or police, but now I'm supposed to somehow have police power over these people. And then I'm responsible for their behavior, not mine. Please explain that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, Mr. Lenga, I would invite you to call me personally tomorrow, and I will take you on a little tour, because you are missing quite a bit about what's been going on in our town the last couple of years. Now, as far as what you're talking about is policing your renters, of course, screening your renters properly is key and renting to responsible people. Now, I thank you for apparently doing that. Of course, if there's some incident that is beyond anyone's control, that is outside of what we're talking about. And if you and I speak privately, and I will take you around, I think I can explain some of the things and show you lots of photos of what I'm talking about. Again, you know, I appreciate that you sound like you run a tight ship, and that's what we need more of. Next person, Rich.
Joanne Moskovic. Joanne, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi. Am I there?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So I know you're not necessarily going to answer questions, but I have a lot of concerns about the proposed amendment. Some of them have been addressed already, but I just want to kind of go through a hit list that I came up with as I reviewed it. One is when are you looking to have the amendment be adopted? I know that that was covered, hopefully maybe discussed in February, maybe a May adoption. But then you stated that the moratorium wasn't going to be lifted until the end of the summer. So I would ask why. First of all, the moratorium, if you're able to get this amendment, which was the stated purpose of your moratorium in the first place, if you're able to get the amendment made to satisfy the concerns that you have with it, why are you not going to lift the moratorium until the end of the summer?
Hold on. Let me answer that. Let me answer that for you right now, because I keep saying this over and over again, and it's not registering in people's skulls. Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I've got my 3 minutes.
Would you like an answer? Or you want your 3 minutes? And I'll answer.
Well, either way, but I just want to make
sure.
Go ahead and
continue, please. Okay. Please do.
And so again, the question is, when will the moratorium be lifted? Because if the amendment's in place, which was the whole stated purpose of entering the moratorium in the first place, then you've accomplished your stated purpose, but yet you're going to hang on to the moratorium until the end of the summer. And I know that there was some reference to you needed to do that to determine what it was going to cost you, what the enforcement was going to cost you, and whether the proposed rates are going to cover your cost. But that's really, you're essentially blocking everybody out while you guys figure that out. And that does not seem reasonable to wait until the end of the summer to do that. So again, there are questions and comments, but I don't necessarily expect an answer. I'm just going through my comments so that hopefully they'll be addressed later. How are you going to go about once you do amend it? Are you going to put forth a time frame? Is the amendment going to include, a time frame by which people then must apply? Are you going to set that out? How are you going to notify people? Are you going to mail them notice? The amendment provides for some notice provisions, but the very first one provides for notice to a last known address. Where are you going to get their last known address? Is it the tax bill? Is it the public utility bill that New Buffalo sends? Or is it, mailing to the local residents? Because I think last known address needs to be defined so that as the city, you can protect yourself, and also as the owners, they know that their last known address is actually an address that's on register with the city, or might it be what's on the short-term application, permit application? So that would be one question. In terms of your permit ineligibility provision that was added since the original ordinance went into effect, you're now providing for permit ineligibility instead of just permit revocation. And you're stating that the permit ineligibility will apply to anyone in violation and for a period of 36 months, which is a very long time to block somebody out yet again, 3 years from being able to get a permit if they're in violation. And how are you going to make that determination of who's in violation? Is it only people that have received citations? Is it only people that have received administrative notices? Or by using just the loose term for people who are in violation, does that mean that the city has the right to just self-determine who's in violation and then refuse the permit to anybody that applies that the city determines to be in violation, whether there's ever been a citation issued or an administrative order or whatever it is that puts those people on notice that they're in violation. The placard, I agree, the placard on the right-of-way for violation for a year. And then, you know, that's it's like the scarlet letter, like the lady said. You know, you have a list on your website of the permitted addresses. And so I think it's completely overboard and unnecessary to stick a sign in somebody's yard, because anybody that wants to know whether their next door neighbor that's renting out is a permitted residence for short-term rental, all they have to do is go on the website. You publish a list of addresses. So to put a scarlet letter, you know, sign in the yard doesn't seem necessary.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is
okay.
Yes, thanks.
There's so much there to unpack. Let me just add that you know, Ms. Moskovich is threatening to sue the city and, you know, for renting illegally without a permit for this extended period of time that she didn't know, when all the rest of you knew that you had to get permits. But that's outside the point. You know, let's move on. We'll get into this as we go on. Next one. Got another one, Rich?
Yeah, it is John Stiles.
Mr. Stiles.
Oh, hello. So I'm just going to go really quick.
Thank you.
So yes, we rent the property out, and you know, our house is up to spec. And to rent our property, you have to be vetted. And I think that's very important. And I think that all of this is going to have the unintended consequences of driving people to the gray market, which is more unlicensed, unregulated activity.
Yeah, but
so you might be exacerbating the problem by charging the rates and all that. Also, have you talked to Airbnb or maybe VRBO of how you regulate the people that aren't going through rental agencies? So that's one point. My next point is the rate of $12.75 for some people, that, especially if you have like a lower rent on your property, let's say $200 a night versus $800 a night. I think that could be impact people differently. So that's, I think, something that to consider. I don't know if that was taken into consideration. And I think the real problem is all those people that aren't licensed and are just renting their homes however they see fit. They aren't abiding by these rules. I think that's the real problem, and I don't know how to solve it at the moment. But maybe by talking to the companies, the Airbnb, or seeing how the process is, how they're being able to rent those properties. Maybe looking at that might shed some light on how we can solve that problem and kind of have everybody through a pipeline. So yeah, that's all I had to say, and I hope my thoughts were of assistance.
Next one, Rich.
Augie is all I know.
Augie. I assume that's
Hello.
Mr. Hey, Augie, how you doing?
Hey, John. Hey, Roger. How you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
Go ahead, man.
Listen, I've been hearing this all night. I've been on the meeting. I'm going to give you my 2 cents real quick. I'm a resident here, have been for 10 years. I get it. I live in a beach town. I get it. There's going to be people who rent here. I get it. But here's the problem. I invite any of the people who own rentals, all these people who are on the call, I'm sure they're legit. I invite you to come over to my house on a weekend in the summer to listen to what I have to listen to, okay? I have partiers basically every weekend at a house across the street from me that do not abide by the rules. I just found out they're not even registered to rent. The second thing is, you get these power drinkers come in and the profanity come in with my 2 kids out there. I don't want to have to listen to that. I mean, I came here to live a nice, quiet life. I know it's not like that. Like I said, I know it's a beach town, but I don't really want to listen to all the noise that goes on here. And the only thing is I'll say in closing here is I count my blessings in the summer when I see renters come into this house with kids, because then I know that the 11 o'clock curfew that's supposed to be for the whole city is in effect, because they're going to put their kids down and they're going to come out and have their drinks outside and talk, instead of them going to a hot tub with the speakers blowing on the outside. They have speakers on the outside of the house and playing music till 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what I want the legitimate people to know, what I'm going through. And like I said, I invite you to spend a weekend at my house and have to listen to what I have to listen to. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Augie. It's true, the traditional single-family character of our vacation rentals here has been diminished. And so everyone knows, any single property owner's right to profit does not trump your neighbor's right to quality of life. Those things are equal. And that is what we are trying to administer here. Rich, next comment.
Next one is David. David Backup is all I know. Don't know last name.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess I had it set up that way. But yeah, my name is David Whitehead. I've got a place in New Buffalo as well. And I actually bought it as a foreclosure as well and put my own money into it and fixed it up and everything. But I guess my question is, you guys had passed an ordinance a couple of years ago, and I keep kind of hearing throughout this about, like having to enforce it, and they're having issues enforcing it and all that stuff. And I guess my question is, the ordinance that was passed a few years ago, I thought was supposed to take care of all this. So why is this ordinance, or why has it not been, you keep talking about all these rentals that haven't registered, that type of thing. I mean, why haven't you guys been going after those guys? I've never kind of heard, I've never seen that like applying more rules will fix the problem. It sounds like to me that we need to go after more of the people that aren't registered based off the existing rules we have, as opposed to just throwing new rules on top of new rules. And I don't think, we can see Washington government, not to get into political, they just throw rules after rules and nothing ever changes. So that's one thing. And then trying to figure out, like you had mentioned here about somebody had also mentioned about, knowing who the employees and contractors and all that stuff is, their name and contact information. So does the city know all of like stray dogs and everybody's employees and all that stuff? I'm kind of trying to figure out how that fits into this. So that's my 2 questions.
All right, and we'll get to, first one would be answered if you were here for an extended period of time, but the inability to enforce the last ordinance is complicated. The reason for this ordinance is to be able to enforce it, and we'll get into discussion of that as we move on. Rich, we got another one? Rich?
Yes, Nicholas Holavis. Nicholas, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep. Hey everyone, actually this is Michael. Nick is my partner, and we have a rental on 28 South Barton across the street from William Lane, and we took a home also that was a hoarder's home that was absolutely disgusting, put our money into it, our investment into it. So the couple of things that I have to say is we've got skin in the game, and I'd like to know how a property management company would be able to enforce or have short-term renters comply with what you are proposing more than a homeowner would. And then I'd also like to know on that count, if the fines are 50 times what they are right now, will the property management company pay those fines rather than the homeowner? Because it just seems like that would be, seems right. Then as far as, we've got people already registered to book in our place through the end of 2021. So again, if this is to happen before the end of 2021. Will you reimburse the fees that we have paid to Airbnb and what our renters have paid to us and what we've paid to Airbnb? Because we won't get that back. And then also, will there be a cap on how much a property management company is allowed to charge? Because prior to Airbnb coming into the area, we rented our house and we went through a property management company who stole $200,000 from all of our clients. And the charge was 25%, where Airbnb is charging a 3%, and which makes it affordable for us to do it. And also with Airbnb, when someone checks into your home, you get a $1 million policy for damage to your home or to themselves, in addition to our investment owners, homeowners policy. So reading through this, it just seems, especially with the three employees, 3 years, that it's catering to larger property management companies to have that control. And I just don't understand how a property management company can enforce the things that you are asking to be enforced. And perhaps, and some of the things I think Augie said about the people who, at the hot tubs, et cetera, and the large parties, I'd like to know how often, if that's anecdotal. Does that happen with a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom unit? Does it happen with like a 3-bedroom? Where is that line drawn? And again, so those are the things that I would love to address, especially the parts where we've got people booked, and what types of compensation, if you were to go through with this, would you give to the owners who already are in this situation? So thank you.
Mr. Holvis, there's a lot to unpack in there, and probably some things we will not get into tonight. I welcome you to contact me tomorrow so we can have a personal conversation about your issues. Okay, please do. I'd like to speak to you.
No, I absolutely would. And also, Mr. Humphrey, before you offered to take someone on a private tour of the photographs, et cetera. First of all, I don't think there should be any kind of private or backdoor type of.
Well, I was going to show him some stuff that he's clearly not aware is going on.
No, I understand that, and that's a lot of us are not aware of. And also, if you want to show stuff, since this has happened, I've started taking pictures in New Buffalo of owned businesses and privately owned homes that are not, and the condition of them, that they look like they are somewhere like in like the deep South, and the fact that those are not being fined or changed. And
we are moving towards global code enforcement of all of our ordinances, which will clean a lot of that up. But we should talk. Next person, Rich.
I'll give you a call.
Please do. I'll welcome it.
Laura Murray.
Hello. Thank you. Hi. If you don't mind, I'm just going to set the timer for 3 minutes and talk, and then
go ahead.
We'll go from there in the interest of time efficiency since it's running late. Okay, I hit the timer. I've owned a home in New Buffalo for a little over 13 years, and just love it there. Love the community. Yes, it is our second home, and our other primary homes in the western suburbs of Chicago. We were fortunate. We've never rented. We just would enjoy it all summer. We'd go and ski, blah, blah, blah. We would try to use it all year round. Never rented it. Unfortunately, due to financial situations, I had to rent it. Well, when finances proved difficult in May of 2019, I found out there was a moratorium on short-term rentals. So I was unable to rent it, and was really close to selling my home. Luckily, I ended up finding a long-term renter that I could hang on to the home for a while. I would love to have a short-term renter, and I think it's unfair that a home that I've owned for 13 years and all my neighbors are grandfathered in, that I cannot rent it as a responsible owner. Unfortunately, if I can't be approved for short-term rentals, I'll probably have to sell my home, which would be very, very, very sad. I do think it's a bit of an infringement on the rights of property owners and a bit of an overreach, as someone had alluded to earlier. I think, John, you mentioned earlier that there was like 150 plus illegal rentals that you say you need to kind of clean up / regulate prior to lifting the moratorium. However, I don't think regular homeowners and short-term renters should be penalized for the 150 plus illegal rentals that you say you need to clean up in the meantime. There's so many law-abiding homeowners. I sat on my board for 10 years, and my property manager, a lovely lady, Julie Westergren, vouched for me to have a short-term rental, and that was meant by Nick Curcio, and I cannot remember the other gentleman's name, declining that. And it just hurts my heart because it's a beautiful community that I love, that I might be forced to sell my house that I've owned for 13 years because I cannot be approved for short-term rentals. I only have 10 seconds left. So I want to say thank you, John Humphrey, for your time, and everybody else for listening. And I hope that we can come to some semblance of a responsible answer for the majority of people. Thank you.
Hopefully, Laura, I can shed some clarity to some of your comments as we move on here. Next comment, please.
The next one just says Zoom user.
Oh, sorry about that. This is Jorge Alvarez. So I think that, John, you and I had a little bit of an encounter when you were supporting the trailer park for New Buffalo. And you straight looked to my face, and when you say, who is this guy? Somebody said, oh, he owns vacation rentals. You told me to my face, oh yeah, I hate all of you guys. And these new regulations translate directly to that. You know, I think you're crushing the small business owner. You know, Heather comes out, and let me ask you, do you want Heather with 4 homes and 1 person, or do you want the companies that have 100 and 150 homes with 2 or 3 people? I mean, if you do the math, you're basically killing any sort of boutique vacation rental, which is going to do more hand-holding. It's going to have more time for screening. So all the regulations you're passing, basically you want to push everybody to these big management companies, which are completely understaffed. The other thing is, I mean, these meetings should not even be going on because there is people trying to get in, and it's amateur hour that we don't have. We should hang up, and we should do this soon when everybody can actually listen to this. And John, listen, if you look up my homes, I have some of the most beautiful homes in New Buffalo, and I love the area. I live in New Buffalo full time. I don't want to see garbage on the side of the road. I want this town to get better, more beautiful, cleaner. And your anger towards vacation rental doesn't let you see that there is more to it, that you're taking your anger on the crappy managers and the people that don't care. You're taking it on everybody. And it's not fair. Your regulations that you're proposing are not fair. Why will you block new vacation rentals from coming in? That's not going to help anything. That's going to create an underground market. So you're pushing, you're basically taking your anger on us, the one who are doing it right. So there is no reason to block new vacation rentals. Let them come in and regulate them, because people are going to rent their home, and then there is this woman who may have to sell because of your regulations. I mean, I think that we need somebody objective to come up with these rules who is not angry in general about vacation rentals. Because you know what? We bring a lot of revenue to the city. And again, you're not here because of me, because my homes, you'll never see garbage outside. Okay. My homes are perfectly painted, and there is smoke detectors in every room. You know, it's all, I don't cut corners, but I can tell you, your anger, you're punishing the ones who are doing it right. It's not right. What you're asking for the management companies, you're killing who you want. You want Heather, who has 4 homes, who has the time to manage them correctly. So you are killing the right people to manage homes.
Excuse me, Jorge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So 1, that's not true. 2, I have a perfectly good relationship with vacation rental property owners, the management companies. Any anger I had in our conversations was directly at you specifically, not the group, Mr. Alvarez. And we'll talk again soon. Next comment.
Tracy. Tracy, you just need to unmute yourself.
Hi there. Sorry about that.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. Just a couple of quick things. Now that we do have 2 seasons of data, it would be interesting to see in the decision-making process in your discussion, the total number of infractions that have, you know, the city has been called to enforce or check on over the course of those 2 seasons, and the number of infractions broken down by the ones managed by local, you know, property management companies that are handling it versus the ones that are owner operated that we know are owner operated and that might be working outside of your system. And if we're going to be applying numbers to things, you know, it should be weighted accordingly, not a blanket policy. And, you know, it'd be nice to see that for each season that we're referring to, the 2019 and the 2020 seasons, in my opinion.
It would be nice if we had that data. I have a ton of anecdotal data, but as far as city back data, they just weren't collecting it.
So that's unfortunate because Chickiming Township reports and New Buffalo.
Well, it will happen
reports.
from now on, trust me. But in the past, we didn't have a mechanism to do it. So we may have a list of some infractions as far as police, the bigger stuff to do to police calls and whatnot. But the kind of stuff that I know you're talking about, you know, most of that is anecdotal, and, you know, I've seen plenty of it. There's, you know, pictures all over the place, but I understand where you're coming from.
No, I agree. You might have come across situations, but the dollars attached to that is important when you're making these policies. And it would just be good to know what you're dealing with.
I agree.
That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yep. Julie Yonker. Or Jolie, I'm sorry.
Hi, thanks for having this meeting tonight. As somebody with deep roots in the community, my grandparents have had homes there for decades prior to their passing. My parents have had multiple homes and are local homeowners and residents for, gosh, 50 years practically. And now as a 3rd generation homeowner in the area, I'm pleased to be here tonight, but I only found out because of local folks who told me about the meeting going on. So my question is, how are you communicating this? Because there are all these violations. How are you communicating what's going on, what the policies are to people who, I happen to be on the East Coast now. I'm in the community several times a year at my home there, but I'm on the East Coast. So I've not seen anything sent out. So how is this information being translated to people who don't live in the community? Because I don't want to be in violation for something that's been going on for a long time, because we aren't being told, since we're not getting local papers, we're not getting the information. Thank you for
information is on the website. Should all be posted on our website, and this meeting is for my fellow council members to get as informed as so many of the folks here who were able to walk through this ordinance today. So if we ever get to it, we'll get to the discussion. Any more comments?
Yep, Jeff. Jeff, you should be able to unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry about that. Good evening, Jeff Miller. Just had a, sorry, I've been trying to get in for the last 45 minutes and I just finally got in, but I just had a concern was that, as this has been going on over the last year, is that it's been raised multiple times that there's like over 150 illegal rentals. And I've just done like a lot of research and data. And my concern is I feel like that some of these rentals are being counted, the ones that are actually in Buffalo Township, that are not being taken into account, the fact that they're not actually in New Buffalo City. That's being put into that actual number amount, because when you, on VRBO, you can specifically search for within the actual city of New Buffalo. Yep. And Airbnb wants to combine all that together. I'm just curious, as far as with your data, how you've been able to compile that.
It depends on the time of year, Jeff. We've done multiple searches. You know, now obviously it's low, but in the summer it's easily, you know, close to 300 in the city. And you'll see some maps here if I ever get to it that kind of goes through how it works.
Oh, thank you.
But certainly you're right. It does do the township, you know, later, especially in the summer. It's, you get more up to 500. Anyone else, Rich?
No, that's it.
All right, kill it. Let's move on. Thank you. Wow, that was quite the public comment. So before we can get into the rental thing, we do have a presentation for the rest of us, if he has made it through this. Evan Huckabee.
Excuse me, John.
Hop up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
John, can you hear me? There's a Bart Goldberg that keeps raising his hand and waving it. He was doing it forever, but and
right.
Anthony Zioli, I can see.
Yeah, got it.
But they've been doing it way before this. We just ended it, so I just didn't. I don't think they know how to do the hand thing, so they're raising their actual hands. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I would say just, you know, to them, just do Kim, they just contact me privately. In fact, Anthony, I know Anthony can get back in touch with me tomorrow and speak. I don't know Mr. Goldberg though. You know, it has been an hour and almost an hour and 15 minutes of public comment. Rich?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I do see Bart raising his hands up to you if you want me to acknowledge.
Yeah, put Bart on. That's the last one.
All right, Bart, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Great, I appreciate it. Yeah, the instructions had said you could just raise your hand, and I've been waiting for an hour. I'm Bart Goldberg, and I'm president of the Merchant Street Cottages. However, I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight, only personally. First off, I want to say I'm delighted that this will not be the first reading. Since the recent election, the mayor has stated repeatedly that you wanted to first correct the problem that you state is the most important one, namely to rein in people that might be renting without having obtained a license. Everyone supports that. You were going to do that first and then draft a more comprehensive amendment to the ordinance later. To allow you to do that, you extended the moratorium until October. I was pleased with this, as that would allow time for thoughtful revisions. I would suggest that these initial revisions be limited to addressing only the non-licensed people. This draft goes way beyond your stated initial objective, as it contains ill-considered positions that harm both year-round residents and second home owners alike. The most egregious provision is the reduction of occupancy from 14 down to 10. That has nothing to do with the avowed purpose of protecting the guests or the community. Instead, it simply decreases tourism without any benefit. A group of 14, such as maybe 3 brothers and sisters and their kids, will now have to take their vacation to a more welcoming community. That hurts tourism, and that hurts everyone. In his prior comments and in his posts on Facebook, the mayor has at least implied that those of us that don't live here full-time are second-class citizens. Let's remember that New Buffalo was founded as a second home community. We came in droves, and many of us came long before many of the full-time residents that live here now. With us, the city has prospered, but it seems that now we are viewed as the problem. We don't have the right to vote, but that does not mean that the mayor and council don't owe us an obligation. After all, the life of the full-time residents would be awfully different without us. 77% of the gross revenue spent by New Buffalo is raised via real estate property taxes. And the great majority of that revenue comes from secondary home residents. In fact, we pay 100% of the cost of the school system that benefits the full-time residents. So please, let's don't pretend that this is for the benefit of the taxpayers. Let's work out an ordinance that benefits all parties. I can tell you that my wife and I care as deeply about New Buffalo as you do. Thank you.
Fair enough. It's funny you made that comment, second-class citizens, because that's what we used to say when we were on the other side. All right, let's move on to this presentation from Mr. Evan Huckabee for the beach rake. For Beach Tech, is Mr. Huckabee still here?
Yeah, we just have to find him. Give us. Mr. Huckabee, is that you?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Huckabee, sorry for the delay. You stepped into, you know, quite the scene here, but appreciate your time and go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There we go. Well, cut my head off.
You able to start the presentation?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to do slide by slide, or are you going to go into it? I don't know who's controlling the presentation.
Rich, is that Nancy? Is she muted?
I got it. Sorry, I needed to be unmuted. So this is Nancy. I'm running the presentation for you.
Hi, Nancy. There's the start presentation. Looks like a little desk. Or the, yeah, you can go to slideshow. Perfect. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you. My name is Evan Huckabee, and I'm your Regional Sales and Operations Manager for Beach Tech. Go to the next slide. In September of last year, Kristen invited me to New Buffalo because there were some challenges that she was facing with the current tractor and tow behind model the city owns. Next slide. Go ahead and start the video.
Oh.
Is it not playing?
No, it's not playing.
Well, that's all right. The video shows that the challenge was the tractor and the sifter were getting stuck in the soft sand and making it one. Oh. That's okay, Amy.
This sucks. Why would it not work?
Do you think you could just talk about your presentation, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll keep trying.
The challenge was the tractor and the sifter were getting stuck in the soft sand and making it, one, difficult to clean the beach, and two, costing the city unnecessary man hours struggling to clean the beach that could have been utilized elsewhere. You can see in the picture, the video worked, that the tractor is struggling to drag the sifter through the soft sand. The screener had been lifted out of the sand to create less drag, which means the machine is no longer cleaning, leaving unwanted debris left on the beach. Our solution was the Beach Tech 5500 self-propelled machine, a power unit and sifter all in one. Then there's another video showing a side-by-side demo. If you go ahead and go to the next slide, slide number 5, Amy. And if that video will play, that would be great. With the high flotation tires and 3-wheel design, you can see the Beach Tech glide across the surface. Notice that the machine, we did not have any issue with the machine and traction control, ensuring the whole beach was screen clean from unwanted debris. And from this picture, you can see the tow behind and tractor digging ruts into the sand, which was making it difficult to clean the sand. Whereas the Beach Tech self-propelled on the left was gliding across, and we never had to lift the screener out of the sand and making a consistent cleaning pass every single time. You can just go to the next slide, Amy. What used to take 3 hours to make only a couple ineffective passes, with the Beach Tech, Kristen effectively cleaned the entire beach from waterfront to the dunes in only an hour, saving the city time and money. Go ahead to slide number 7. The proof was in the hopper. We extracted a mixture of stone, organic material, as well as plastic waste from your beach, showing you what the other machine was leaving behind. Go ahead to slide number 8. Another added benefit to our all-in-one self-contained unit is parts and service. Currently, the city is going to 2 different vendors for your tractor and tow behind. With our Beach Tech 5500 self-propelled mobile screener and our 6 branch locations across the US, we can provide a technician or spare parts at your location next day if needed. And that's the end of my presentation. I appreciate your time, and I apologize that the video didn't work.
Yeah, maybe if we could get these videos, you know, sent to us via email, or if Kristen, you got them or something, we could check them out at City Hall. That would be cool.
All right, I just want to say, this is Nancy. We did practice this and they worked, so I don't know why they're not working now.
We're going to have a discussion about this in a bit, and then we can get back to these videos at a later date tomorrow as we move into discussing this, because it's going to, you know, come up again as we move on.
They have the presentation at City Hall, and Amy has it on her, so you can come and see.
Yeah, we can see this down there.
It does play. I don't know why it's not playing now.
Yeah, who knows? We'll check it out. I want to make sure that all the guys can see this. And
I would like it sent to me, please. I have a question for this gentleman. What is the warranty on this product, sir?
It's a 1-year warranty from day of delivery. And that covers, it doesn't cover any wear parts. It's all manufacturer defect, so.
All right, thank you. I talked to Kristen about this a little bit. So can you explain, and I know the dynamic at the beach has changed a little bit. So we're just, you know, having a question or a conversation about this right now. The sand, there's different, the sand is really soft down there. Yeah, the beach is hot, the sand's hot. Well, but so is that because of all the sand that's come in from the lake or from the dunes, or what, Kristen?
Yeah, it's from the high water levels in the last 2 years, just throwing the sand on the beach when we get the high wave action in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. We've added about 2 feet of new sand on top of what we used to have. And then we've added more this season. So we have a ton of fresh sand out there, and that's just created an incredible problem with the tractor. It's just getting bogged down and stuck. And pretty much this year we've got more added, and my problem is going to be, I don't think that tractor is even going to be able to get out on the beach this season, because it's going to be even softer than it was last season.
Okay, I've seen the ruts down at the beach, and I get it. The dynamic, like I said, has changed down there. Of course, like I'm sure other people, the machine that we have is almost paid off, correct?
Yeah, August.
Okay. So I'm going to let some other council members ask some questions. That's good for me right now. Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have the proper tires and the proper equipment? You know, is it equipped properly to run on the beach? That's what I'd like to know. the tractor we have?
In order for something to pull that rake, we'd have to get an entirely different tractor with, I don't even think dualies would work. You'd either need like a track machine for this tractor or.
Is it underpowered or, I mean, that's what I'm asking. Is there special tires that can be put on it, or it just doesn't have the horsepower to pull?
It doesn't have the horsepower, and I don't know that special tires would do anything. The tractor is basically at this point underpowered for the conditions that we have out on the beach to pull that machine, because it is a machine that's PTO driven. So there is no power going to the tires on the existing rake. It's just the tractor basically dragging it through the sand. So if you get to where it starts to sink, you're pretty much stuck because the tractor can't pull it out. It doesn't have the power to get it out. Oh, there we go. It's working.
Mm-hmm. So I think my opinion is that I would like to see this whole video sent to me. I mean, you know, we've had some issues here, but yeah. I think tonight, a start is to potentially send this out to bid on this product before we move forward, to see how much money we can recoup for what we have before we go to this new machine. That's you know.
Yeah, that was the idea, was that we wanted to send the tractor, here you go, and the beach rake to auction, see what we could get for it. If we felt that we weren't going to get enough, then we would scrap the idea. But I'm just going to say the problem was still, I honestly don't think that machine's going to be able to rake the beach this summer.
Well, then we'd have to look at it.
Then it's up to you guys whether you want to, you know, still.
So that's kind of my train of thought right now.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for other comments.
You can see.
Yeah, I got you.
So are we buying a self-contained unit? Like,
yes,
the one
that's what
on the bottom of my screen.
Yeah, that's what the Beach Tech 5000 is. It's a self-contained all-wheel drive unit.
So it doesn't matter what kind of sand that.
I had absolutely no problem going through the sand, and this is a time lapse, obviously.
Right.
But I had absolutely no problem going.
Look how fast it's being done.
I wish.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what's powering it, you know, what motor, you know.
That would be a question for Evan.
You know.
It's a Tier 4 final Deutz engine, but it's 74 horsepower, so you're not dealing with the DEF, so you're not adding an additional cost of DEF and diesel. So it is Tier 4 final, but you don't have that added liquid to it. And the Deutz is under manufacturer warranty as well.
It's just for a year.
I would have to check with the Deutz and see how long theirs is.
You could probably buy an extended warranty, yes.
So that's the machine right there. It's also much smaller in length. You know, I don't know what the overall length of the tractor and the rake is, but that's another part of the problem, is that as the beach has shrunken over the years, it's really hard to turn the entire tractor and rake without just getting stuck.
You could buy an extended warranty, Mr. Huckabee.
We can if you'd like, yes, sir.
Just asking.
Does that come with 2 seats?
Nope, it's just, well.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, you're going to see this running around on the beach. People are going to want to ride.
No rides. I got work to do.
So is there some other thoughts on the council, John, Lou, or Brian?
I have none.
You don't have any questions? I mean, well, I guess the question is, you know, now we see what we're looking at here. Is do we want to vote to put the tractor and rake to auction to see what we can get, and if that number is enough to hopefully justify buying this? I'm a proponent of the right tool for the right job. If the current setup isn't correct, I would lean to get the correct thing if it's truly not the right tool for the right job. So that's kind of where I'm at with your guys' input. on how we proceed here. Lou, you got any thoughts on this?
I don't think so.
I think we might have passed them out in the public comment.
Well, I kind of agree with you, John. If we can get our money for the equipment we have, then it kind of makes sense to move to this, you know. But if we can't get what it's worth, you know, I don't want to give our equipment away.
I mean,
well, the other question, John. The other question is how this auction, how soon can it start, and what's the time frame on that, and then what's the time frame if we do sell our equipment and getting this new piece?
That's for Kristen.
So I think, when did he say it was?
Well, they normally hold auctions twice a month, but we'd want to probably advertise it for 30 days on the auction site before actually doing the auction. So we could get it on the next auction, or an auction within 30 days. And the nice thing with the auction is, you know, we have kind of a circuit breaker to where if, you know, we don't get enough money for our tractor and rake, we just don't sell it. Because anything that's put up on this auction is, there's a disclaimer on there that it's subject to local municipality approval. You know, so if we don't get enough money for it, we just don't sell it.
So I see both sides of it. You know, we almost have this equipment paid off, but it seems that it's not doing the job. But you know, we all do have a fiduciary responsibility to the city. But I think you know, we need to. Obviously, this doesn't look like it's doing a good job. And look how fast that thing goes. Oh my goodness sakes! But I digress a little bit. So I think
it's fun to drive. I'll have to tell you that, Mark. It's kind of fun to drive. You can
okay. Well, when we get it, we'll be in line. Roger and I will be down there. And
what's the delivery time?
All right, I'm back. I was muted. I kept trying to unmute and it doesn't allow us to. That's something we should look into, where the council members can actually unmute themselves without going to the whole permission process.
Yeah, I thought that you could. But Lou, what do you think about this?
I agree with all the comments that you guys have already made. I definitely want to see what we can get for the other ones. So let's get that going right away up to auction. And, you know, of course, you know, I'm sure we'll have a minimum taking on it where they can't low bid us and get it. But there was that. And then Mark had mentioned about the warranty. I'd like to find out what an extended warranty would cost, because that may be a good idea, especially with equipment like this, you know, that's so unique and we're not necessarily going to have parts here locally at the Napa. So I'd like to look into the cost benefits of possibly doing that. So if we can get all that information before our next meeting and get this thing, you know, I would suggest that we vote on putting it up for auction tonight.
Okay.
And just to see how it does.
You want to make a motion, Lou?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
You're good with that, Roger?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Somebody want to second it?
I'll second it.
All right. All right.
Sorry, who was that?
Brian.
Okay, thank you.
So we got a motion to put the beach rake and tractor to auction with Lou motioning and Brian is the second. Roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lejeski?
Yes.
Councilmember Flanagan?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Humphrey?
Yes.
This is the first step to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Absolutely.
So.
All right, let's get back to the topic of the evening here and try to get through this as quickly as possible. First up, if Nancy, I get, you have two graphics for me. Could you put up the one called density for everyone to see? So we know what we're dealing with here.
You got it, Nancy?
1 second.
Okay, so guys, I think we've been a little bit, you know, a little bit unfair here as far as some of the comments on the direction we want to go. I have no interest in punishing rental companies that are doing the right thing and have been. The rules here in this document are for us all to move forward. And this is a conversation that at least Lou, Mark, and I have been involved in separately at varying levels for 2 years now on how to, you know, fix this problem moving forward towards equitable for everyone in this community. You know, and it's funny how when the tune changes, the other side now wants to cry unfair, when in the past it was the residents who, you know, have to deal with this that were crying unfairness. So, all right, let's take a look. So I put this map together. You can blow this up to 200% and kind of move it around. This is every current permitted rental on the roll of 162 or 165, whatever it is. If you want to scroll down so we get a good view here and kind of move it over, just slowly move it. So you can see here the density. Now, this is the permitted density, right? So now imagine this doubled, and that's what we're dealing with, okay? And now we know from our own independent research and from the workshop with Granicus that that number is accurate, that there we have double the amount of rentals operating at the high season or at higher points. Even as early as October, we were still dealing with this many rentals. This is every rental in the city that is permitted, okay? So again, think of this doubled, and that is what we're actually dealing with as far as short-term rental density. And if you scroll up a little bit, Nancy, towards the lake, just bring it up a little bit so we can see the marina area. So if you see here, like around, where you'll see, oh, let's see, scroll down. Like if you look at the section here on Whitaker, right by the Stray Dog, you'll see those 3 condo addresses with a little 10 next to it. That's 10 permits within those 3 addresses for rent. And Sunset Shores, Marquette. Now we know there's a lot of, you know, other rentals operating here that aren't permitted. We're probably familiar with some of them, but I wanted to give you guys a good idea of the aerial picture of the density here. Now, if you want to put the other graphic up, and I'll explain that one. And this will give you the real level of what we're doing here. Okay, so this, so you see to scroll down so we get the Marquette section in there too. So this is a graphic I did where I just blocked these sections out, and it shows the number of permits in a section, and it shows the percentage of what short-term rentals are. If you could go up the other way towards the lake so we get everybody in there. So the names of these are just reference points. So if we start at Sunset Shores, you can see we've got 30 permits. So if it's doubled due to unregistered, you're looking at 60 of 172 properties in Sunset Shores. So that's a 34% density rate of short-term rentals versus the rest of the homes there. Due to the amount of cars that we'll get to in a minute, you know, we're thinking that the actual percentage that's probably manageable is around 15 to 20% in some of these areas. If you go to Merchant Street North on this map, you'll see they've got 36 permits out of 100. And if you double that, because of the unregistered ones we suspect are in the area, you've got 72 out of 100. You have a 72% density of rentals in that area. So basically it's all rentals. You know, you have an R2 and R3, a general commercial district, general business district, and a PUD there. I mean, that's an area that's ripe for a complete rezoning to GCD, in my opinion, because of the, and then all that would be legal. There'd be no question, you know, of the R2 and R3 variations there. In the Marina Corridor there, back, you know, by City Hall, again, we're looking at 56 out of 187 properties, so probably the rental density 30%. And then we have our school districts. If you go to 1 and 2, my side of the road here, you're looking at 20 to 30% density because the majority of all the rentals are on the east side of the north side of Eagle Street. You can see there, and then the school's a little bit later, except when you get to Norton Street, you're looking at 14 to 24 properties are operating as rentals on that one street. So again, that's a pretty high number of rentals in an R1 that are operating as dedicated rentals. And then the last section, you scroll all the way down, it's the east of the tracks there, and you've got 14 out of 36 potential rentals out of only 7 registered permits in areas out of 36 homes. Again, that's almost a 40%. So we're looking at a very high rental density now that has, you know, by most people's opinions, if you're not in the industry, is unmanageable. As far as enforcement, based on what the people can put on the streets. Now, keep in mind that this number of permits, okay, the amount of people from the granted occupancy of just the permits, okay, is 1,556. And if we double that for all the suspected rentals, you're looking at over 3,000 people on any weekend that are coming into these homes. If they came in 2 to a car, that's 1,500 cars we're bringing into town, additional to everyone else that lives here, the friends, the other people that aren't rentals, all the rest of it. An additional 1,500 cars just from rentals. And that's if you have 2 in the car. I know I'm the only one that's witnessed a house of 10 people coming in 6 to 8 to almost probably 10 cars. So these are some of the heavier issues here that the ordinance needs to address. From not only do we need to enforce our ordinances from a town standard of our existing things on parking and whatnot, but as the homeowners, there needs to be some policing of, if you have a rental, how many people are coming in cars and how they monitor the load of people that we are bringing in town to these properties. It is not a free-for-all. And I believe it's being treated like one by a lot of people. And I would defer to say most of them are people that are not registered to rent. So having said that, if you took a look at this, and this stuff will be available to you guys if you're interested, you can have this to check out and vet. I spent considerable time on this, so it is accurate within, I would say, 5% on the property side as far as the number of properties, maybe less than 5. But let's move into the reading of the amendment. Is that is Nick going to walk through that, or how are we going to do that? That's what all these people here are waiting for, to hear our discussions on this. So,
all right, Nick, you should be able to unmute yourself there.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. We could walk through line by line. It's probably best to get, especially given the time.
Can I say something, please?
What's that?
Can I interject?
Sure.
Go ahead, Mark.
I want to clear some things up to everybody listening. And, you know, I had nothing to do with, I didn't see this language until, you know, our packet was put out less than 24 hours prior to this meeting. So I didn't have anything to do with this language. And I've heard everybody tonight talk. I sat in on a meeting with another council member with a lot of those people a couple years ago. So I see both sides, and I see a lot of what Mr. Humphrey is saying. So we're, you know, we're having a discussion tonight, but I didn't feel the proper time to evaluate this document. And that's kind of where I'm at. You know, there's a lot of stuff to assess here. And you know, that's my opinion. I didn't receive enough time here to evaluate this document. And we can run through it. I read through a lot of stuff, and I heard everybody's comment tonight, but I just want to be clear about that.
Well, we've got 2 weeks to talk about it, Mark.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make that point, John.
This is Lou, real quick. I had a couple questions. First was, Nick, you know, because have you been involved in all these changes? Because I knew nothing of any of this, that this is even occurring in the background, that they were even working on revising the current ordinance we had. I assumed that we were going to have some public workshops still prior to actually writing all this, because I don't know whose inputs in it or anything. I you know, like Mark said, until yesterday, like end of day, I didn't even know about this. So
Lou, this is just me and Rich trying to create something to start to work from.
Okay, so it's basically you and Rich, and then Nick. For Nick tonight, the purpose was originally to have a first reading of this ordinance, correct?
I think that may have been a misunderstanding about what the desired timing was. But
well, I guess the question goes to John then, because my question, I like everybody to just be straightforward and honest.
Sure.
I feel like that, John, you might be backtracking a little bit because
I don't know where it got confused. We took the document that you had worked on at the workshop, we updated it, and it was just, you know, we have to communicate with you guys in a public forum. So this is what we came up with to start working from, and that's all we're doing here. Is just
that's fine. So, but the intent tonight originally, until the meeting started tonight, basically, or maybe you decided before, sometime today, was to have a first reading, right?
Well, no, because I was never I was confused, I think, on a first read. as a voting document. I knew we weren't ready there because you guys hadn't seen any of this.
Okay.
So, I mean, you guys need to see this, and then we can get to the point where we can have a first read. I mean, I couldn't, you know, we have to meet in a public forum. So this is just a document to discuss, to walk through. And there obviously are a bunch of things that we're going to need to address and try to, you know, clean up a little, you know, based on some of these comments. So I would say, let's just do that and see where it goes. You know, I mean, in 2 weeks, if we can have a first read, that would be great. But at least now we can all work from this and go from there.
I understand. I just feel like this was going to be a first reading. I feel like we're being misled a little bit. And then that
not purposely.
At the beginning of the meeting, Nick had mentioned, he's like, you know, all worried about the timing, that, you know, that we're not, if we don't do the first reading till, you know, the next meeting in a couple of weeks, you know, it just, I don't know. It seems a little fishy to me, but
yeah, I don't know where that went astray, because this is obviously not something that I would even agree to pass as is without input.
Lou, I'm in the same boat you are. I did not know of any of this till tonight.
I know that no one has worked on this except Rich and myself, so that's why this is presented to you guys to get feedback on to move forward.
Okay, I just feel like the city council's being left in the dark here. Personally, you know, you earlier I heard you discussing that you've been meeting with the rental agencies.
Yeah, back in December, because I wanted to be up front and talk to them and you know, get.
No, and I understand that, but I just feel like you're kind of doing all this on your own, and then all of a sudden you throw at us, hey, here's a proposed ordinance that none of us have had any input in, and nor has our planning commission or the public or any of these rental agencies or the.
That's why we're doing this as a working document. So we know, I mean, you had the workshop in October. You know that there needed to be changes. So here we're trying to present some changes to work through. Based
I agree completely, and we need to. We need to immediately, and I agree with all that. I feel like we've been left in the dark, and this just got tossed at us, you know, at the end of the day yesterday. So I don't believe that we need Nick to go through all this tonight if you don't want to. But I mean, I guess.
I mean, do you guys want to read it, and then how do we? But then, okay, Lou, how do we work on it as a group?
Well, I guess we could do that now, but I mean, it's not really a reading. I guess he can go through all the red line stuff and explain what and how it would work. Because I even question the legality of some of this, you know.
Well, that's why he was involved, obviously.
I know, but you know, like the whole thing about putting a sign out in front of somebody that rents illegally, or however that read, you know, out in front of their yard for a year, it's like public shaming. I don't know. That just seems a little extreme to me, and I don't know where that came from. Is that something that Nick that came from some other town's code where they do that?
Yeah, so that was a recommendation, I believe, from the building department back in the summer. I think it was discussed at least as a concept, at the presentation, I want to say back in the late fall that we did, where we walked through a PowerPoint. Most of these recommendations were mentioned during that, at least as concepts during that presentation. And then just kind of as a process point, my understanding is that at your last regular scheduled city council meeting, there was a vote to schedule the special meeting. And then between then and now, basically a 2-week period, I've been working with primarily with Rich in consultation with the mayor to kind of take those concepts that were discussed in the PowerPoint, as well as some other input from the mayor and from interim manager Killips, to put together a draft. Again, as a discussion, the agenda said first reading. It was my understanding that the council may possibly want to move forward with this with adopting something at the next meeting. First reading doesn't necessarily mean that what you adopt is what was presented. You can always make changes in between the first reading and the second reading. You can make changes the night of a second reading. But now you've slowed things down even further, which I think is a good idea based on the amount of input received. So that's just kind of going through kind of the history of how we got here.
Thanks.
Probably in my view, the best, rather than going line by line, especially given the time, would be to kind of have an overview of what some of the major changes are. A lot of them have been brought up during public comment, but I can maybe clarify some things if that's workable to.
Just one comment before we continue. The only thing that I saw that it was missing is putting a cap on the amount of rentals that we're going to allow. Because that was like the main, everyone I spoke to, that's what they wanted to see. Enforcement and that were the top two. And then, and that's not in there. So I was kind of surprised not to see something in there regarding that, but that's my only comment. So Nick, if you want to continue, that'd be great.
Yeah, let me first make a comment on that. So the reason for that is that has to be a separate ordinance done through the zoning ordinance. So these specific changes are more regulatory in nature. They're really designed to create more efficient and cost efficient for most of the changes in this draft anyway. The intent is to create a more efficient administrative system for dealing with violations of existing and lawfully licensed rentals. The idea of capping is really more of a land use issue, and in my opinion needs to come through the zoning ordinance, needs to go through planning commission review and hearing. And then that is the portion of this whole scheme that would be more closely related to the moratorium. And that's why, as the mayor explained at the beginning of the meeting, his recommendation would be to leave the moratorium in effect until that portion is taken care of. But that's, and this was explained during that PowerPoint back in the fall. And this is kind of a two-step process. First, handle the regulatory side, and then handle kind of the numbers, land use capping side through a separate process. So that you're correct, that's not in here at all. That would be a separate conversation that should start going in the planning commission level or at this level. Can really start either, but it has to go through the planning commission in order to be adopted.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you cleared that up. So.
And that, Lou, that's always been in the discussion we've been having. It's just how it was going to work. So
I have one more question to ask Nick. Because of what I stated and what's been talked about tonight, is there anything wrong with us addressing any changes ourselves and sending them to you instead of going through everything here at this meeting? I mean, because I don't feel I had enough time to evaluate this. And we can.
That's definitely fair. My recommended way of proceeding would be to first send comments to Rich or to the interim city manager, and then he can kind of compile those and then work with me on implementing them, or at least addressing them when we come back for whenever the next meeting is where we talk about this.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with this.
That makes sense. And I think that kind of fits in with the idea of just kind of doing an overview of what the goals are here and clarifying some of the things in public comment, if that's where you'd like me to go.
So, I mean, that's, obviously what the rest of the council wants to do, but that's my opinion.
No, I think it's great if you guys want to take some time and put your points in and send them through to Rich and then to Nick, and then we can develop a general consensus. We can just work through Rich to try to get the document up to where we need it to be, to where we have a general agreement that will, then we can get to the point where you can actually call it a first read. If that would be agreeable. Do you want to take this and read it on your own time, or are you guys going to walk through some of this now and ask specific questions?
That's up to everybody else. I mean, my opinion is to table this whole discussion until we go through, reading it and evaluating it and every item. I mean, and then sending it to the interim city manager and move on from there. That's my opinion.
We can certainly do that.
You answered a lot of questions tonight with people, John, and that's, that was your opinion about things. I mean, I just feel I didn't have enough time to, I had no input on this, and it's been discussed, and I don't think, less than 24 hours is enough time for something of this magnitude. And obviously we had an hour and 20 minutes of public comment on it. So that's where I'm at. And I'll be ready to make a motion saying that.
I tend to agree with you, Mark.
I'm going to make a motion to table this until, every council member can send in their language to Rich and move from there. I'll make that motion.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, someone second it?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right.
Thank you. All right. And I will roll call. Councilmember Flanagan?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Lejeski?
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Mayor Humphrey?
Yes. So having done this, guys, what we need to do then is go through, get your comments to expedite this timely, as Lou was just saying, we need to be on the ball here, moving this in the next 2 weeks. So if we want to have a document February 15th, we have something that will be a first read. I'm going to get together with some people that on this comment tonight, and I will reach out to some of the folks in our main short-term rental companies that I've been talking to. Does someone, I can only have one person join me. Does someone want to join me in that? Lou or Mark? Or do you want to join me in that discussion?
Mark's been involved quite a bit with the short-term rentals, and I really, if I could find the time, I'd love to, but I just can't.
Okay. Mark, do you want to do that? You want to do that with me?
I will.
Okay, great.
I'll keep you in the loop when it happens.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, do you guys want to address or think about the Planning Commission, the Joint Planning Commission and City Council meeting to further discuss the actual regulation like Nick mentioned? Because that, even though it's a similar item, it's a separate item.
As far as the cap goes?
Yep. And
then so are we ready to, what is the steps that we need, Nick, in order to schedule that meeting for? Do we need to have a semblance of this ordinance put together just as a reference point for that discussion with the Planning Commission?
Are we talking about some type of capping ordinance?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I mean, you could do that. The council can direct the policy that they would like the Planning Commission to consider, or you can have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission where you kind of hash out ideas, and it really depends on how certain you are, where you want to go, what the best process is. If you have a pretty clear idea of where you want to be moving with the zoning piece, it's appropriate to kind of direct Planning Commission a certain direction. If you think it could go any number of ways, probably just an open discussion meeting, a joint meeting with them would be the best first step.
Well, maybe we should have an open joint meeting, because there are some other things that can come up in that discussion besides the cap that we might get some feedback on and see how people are feeling about it. Like some of the areas that I mentioned that may be potential for rezoning. All right, so do you want to go ahead and Rich, do you want to, it's February, you want to set that up before the 15th?
You didn't want to know your mom's. I'm closing. I'll just let you know. They're not going to let me talk.
Rich?
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was or how that happened, but what kind of time frame would you guys like that put in?
If you want to do it before the 15th, try to get it before the 15th meeting.
That's more up to the council than probably me. Whenever,
right. I mean, do you guys want to get this in before the 15th? You want to try to have a Planning Commission, open meeting to discuss various parts of this, the cap, whatever else comes up in the discussions, or you want to wait until we have more of this document finalized?
That's what I think, John. I think we should wait. Let me ask, could that be part of the conversation through the council's opinion that we sent to the city manager, Nick? Like if we should, this cap subject?
Sure. Yeah. If you have comments on the zoning piece, that's something you can communicate to city manager.
I don't know, John. I think, I understand that we're trying to get stuff out here, but I do think that maybe if we, get a little more information out, and a little more opinion from the council, how we want to move forward with the one document, that's kind of my take on it.
All right, so what I'm hearing is move forward on this document until we get a little more of it consolidated, and then move ahead with the Planning Commission.
That's my opinion. The rest of the council, whatever.
Anyone else disagree with that?
No.
Okay, so that's the direction, Rich. So it's not something we need to vote on. Do we need to vote on that?
No.
Okay, so you were just talking in general, right?
Yep.
So before we get to that, we'll put the boat ramp last. Just real quick while we're talking about this, another thing I wanted to discuss was we need to look into moving forward some building code changes. We have building code fines for things like building illegally that are less than the fines that we're charging for leaving your garbage cans out. So we need to adjust these things so they're modern and in time with what's going on. These fines are very old. They haven't been updated. You know, we've got lot coverage issues for people. We have a lot of pools going in, and pools really need to be under lot coverage. We could get Ted Hansen in here to explain some of the things that we've discussed as far as building code changes go, but we are looking at building code revisions that we're going to need to do, including publicly posting permits, so we know that people are building legally. We have people that post their permits. People then we've asked, they've presented permits and then refused to post them. So I just wanted to put that out there that that's something that we're going to need to discuss sooner than later. And also, we're going to need a long-term rental ordinance. It will be infinitely simpler than this, but we have been brought to our attention some public safety issues with long-term rentals. We've had some people advertising illegal bedrooms in homes that are advertising, trying to rent. And so we need an ordinance to clean up for, you know, public safety and the general organized maintenance of long-term rentals as too. And it should be something that should be relatively simple to do because it's nowhere near as complicated as the short-term rental thing. But I wanted to put that out there so you guys, it's, you know, known that we need to take these things up sooner than later.
There's, you know, and I agree, John, there's a lot of issues for sure that we need to address as we move forward. Definitely. I totally agree. I totally agree. You know, like I said, as we move forward, a ton of issues here to discuss.
You know, public safety is a huge issue, and it keeps coming up more and more, particularly with the COVID stuff. And that's something that really needs to be addressed in these conversations with the short-term rentals as well, that I think gets overlooked by a lot of the owners, is the effect of all these people and public safety based on the occupancies we're granting, which is one of the reasons the cars versus the occupancy and the number of people as it relates to public safety was one of my motives for lowering the occupancy. But that's something we can talk about as we work on the document. So the new business of the crack sealing the boat ramp. Rich, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'd love to read one of my manager's reports.
Thank you.
So basically, to support the continued maintenance of our assets, the Parks Director is requesting that we seal coat and maintain the one half of the boat ramp. It's been quite some time since a part of the lot has been seal coated, and it's time to do this. In order to keep the project affordable, we were asking for approval so that we can have this done early in the season before the lot gets busy. These bids also include restriping the lot so that we can more effectively manage the parking of the kayak vehicles in the lot. 2 quotes were obtained, one from Schembarger out of Berrien Springs for $27,870 and one from Arndt for $32,200. I'd like to have the city engineers review these 2 quotes just to make sure they are apples to apples and kind of proceed on his recommendation of the 2 companies. Now, to note, these 2 quotes were actually for crack sealing the entire parking lot, and we're not going to do that. We're only going to crack seal half of the parking lot, the half doesn't flood, the half that is really still in pretty good shape, and that someday may be reconfigured into roadway or who knows what. So the numbers would be considerably lower than what you see here. And that's really about it.
All right. Anyone have any comments? Mark?
So so these aren't the exact figures. What we're going to say, is Kristen still on?
Yeah, yep. Kristen's right here.
Can you, when I talked to you earlier about this, Kristen, can you elaborate a little bit for the rest of the council, please?
So when I originally contacted these guys, we were going to do the entire lot. And then now the council, or John and you guys have been talking about redoing the road down there and pushing the beachfront plan to get redone. So we decided that if that road's going to be coming through sooner than later, that we're probably going to end up ripping up half of the parking lot. So we're going to do the half of the parking lot that we're not going to rip off, and the half of the parking lot that's also become kind of a problem because of the kayakers, and it's confusing to the boaters as to where the kayakers can park, where the boaters can park. The The entire lot will be restriped, but only half of it will be seal coated and crack filled.
Yeah, and in the half that's not getting reseal coated, that's also a big portion of that is the portion that floods,
right,
that needs addressed. So it just didn't seem like it made a whole lot of sense to crack seal that portion of the lot. And that portion of the lot is in substantially better condition than the other part. So it can probably go another year or two before it needs crack seal, if it still exists.
So we're looking at it. I mean, what did you tell me, Kristen? Like $7,000 off these bids?
Probably close to that, because it's really about a quarter of the lot that's not going to get seal coated once we actually kind of looked at it again.
Okay, thank you. You know, went back and forth on this also, and then my opinion is that the city gets a lot of revenue off the beach area and also, you know, obviously the boat launch areas. So I do think that, you know, we have to do some upkeep and take care of things down there. So that's kind of where I'm at on this issue.
Well, once we get an exact bid or two bids, then we'll have a better idea of where we're at, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the idea is here so we can get it, you know, in line for work, so we can get a better price on it. So would you guys entertain maybe doing a not to exceed? You know, approve it not to exceed 25,000 or something to that, along that lines?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, so what is the two quotes? We have the one that was lower than the $32,000. I mean, what's the difference between those two companies? I mean, is there one or?
Well, one is Arndt, the big construction company that does a lot, and Schemberger are the small guys out of Berrien Springs.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen both of their work. Arndt seems to do a little bit better work.
Okay.
But I also had some concerns about the product, and that's why I kind of wanted the city engineer to weigh in.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So
it's the same product.
You know, that, okay. I'm good how you presented that, Rich, with a limit on it. And Kristen, you're good with that too?
Yep. It's
okay. That's my opinion.
Do we need a vote on this tonight, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get something accomplished here.
I mean, if there's some other comments, otherwise I will make a motion.
Raj, you got any comments on this?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm good with it. I like the not to exceed.
What's the number, John?
The not to exceed?
Yes.
Well, are we changing that? Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah, it can be lowered a little bit if you guys choose to. You know, if you're
whatever you think's in the stipulation of how we can get this done, and if you feel like that's too much, you know, bring it down to where you think it needs to be.
25, I think, is your right number.
All right.
Lou, you got a comment?
Oh, I agree with what you've been saying.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to recommend that we not to exceed $25,000 to redo the beach launch area and restriping.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call.
All right. Councilmember Lejeski.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Flanagan.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mayor Humphrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got council comments. We can wrap this meeting up. Does anyone have any additional comments?
I want to say that my opinion is we need to get our packets out earlier to get the information out so we can assess the language and make decisions. I'd like to see that. I'm also recommending we set a deadline on what we put on our agenda. And this is for all meetings. So that's kind of my opinion during council comments.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mark. I mean, we'll look into that. I took your comments earlier today very seriously, and to the extent that I can, make it rationalize the need for this meeting, and I apologize to people that took this meeting the wrong way, which clearly was the case. This was meant to start this discussion moving forward with the short-term rentals, and we needed a document to do that, and this is it. So I hope everyone understands this being the most contentious issue in this city. And, and I represent the taxpayers that wanted me to do something about this, and I care about that. And I want to come to an amicable solution to this problem that meets the needs of everyone fairly. And that keeps being overlooked in deference of money. Money is important, but quality of life for the people that live here, who've lived here for their lifetimes, is important as well. And that must be considered in our discussions. And I hope we can keep that in mind moving forward. And unless anyone else has any comments, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Mark Robertson.
Thank you. All right.
Roll call, yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Donnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Lajewski?
Yes.
Councilmember Flanagan?
Yes.
Mayor Humphrey?
Yes. Thank you for your time, folks.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lou.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.